First of all, it's not a rivalry. Not when you lose about 35 points.
That's true.
Stephen A. Smith just dropped the verbal hammer and put Angel Reese all the way in her place. And yes, it was about the Caitlin Clark rivalry. 1 minute, he's preaching basketball gospel. The next, he's serving a reality check so sharp it could slice through a WNBA contract. Did Angel poke the wrong bear? Or did Stephen A. just decide it was time for a little courtside humility? Either way, the mic wasn't just dropped, it was launched into orbit.
And the feud is on a different level than the Chicago Sky. Let's get that out the way. Secondly, as much as we love Angel Reese because she is special, she's not Caitlin Clark as a player. Caitlin Clark is on a different level.
Stephen A. Smith, the man whose voice alone could power a small city, has done it again. This time, he decided to put Angel Reese in her place over the now legendary Caitlin Clark rivalry. A rivalry that sounds like it came straight out of a high school drama, but somehow involves billion-dollar sports contracts and an army of Twitter analysts. And of course, Stephen A. had to be the referee/coach/emotional therapist for this cosmic showdown of college basketball royalty. Because when there's drama, you don't just call it, you call Stephen A., the man who treats every sports feud like a season finale of a soap opera with less subtlety and more shouting.
It was a basketball play. Yes. Angel Reese is right about that. But what they called against her in terms of upgrading it to a flagrant one is exactly what they would have done in the NBA as well. I also think to some degree they're looking for something from Angel Reese because if you recall when Kennedy Carter bumped or, shoved Caitlin Clark to one of the footages they show was Angel Reese getting up and clapping and stuff like that. They keep their eyes on stuff like this. Here's where I'm going where the rivalry kicks in. Angel Reese, the reason why, obviously, the whole Caitlin Clark-Angel Reese thing happened was because when they met in the NCAA tournament in 2023, when Angel Reese was doing all of this, because Caitlin Clark.
First off, Stephen A. walking into this rivalry like it's the center stage of an epic gladiator fight was the most predictable thing since someone putting ketchup on fries. He didn't just weigh in, he came in like a full orchestra crashing down in C minor, his voice echoing with that signature blend of outrage and profound seriousness reserved exclusively for moments when he believes history is being rewritten. Which, by the way, in this case was true, because nothing says historical basketball moment like a verbal smackdown from a man who sounds like he drinks espresso through a megaphone.
Yeah, Caitlin Clark is getting that notoriety. Let me go out there and use that to take advantage of it myself and show you what the hell I bring to the table. You can roll your eyes all you want to, but I'm giving you facts. I'm giving you facts. Giving you facts, Eminem. That's what I said. You sat up there and Angel Reese put the female basketball world on notice. Excuse me, I'ma go at her, I'ma take it to that team, I'ma beat them, and I'ma show you I'm just as worthy.
Now, you have Angel Reese, a powerhouse whose name alone makes defenses tremble, facing off against Caitlin Clark, the sharpshooting wizard who's been rewriting WNBA and college hoops records like she's got a secret cheat code. Their rivalry is less about who scores more points and more about who can dominate the headlines and Instagram comment sections. Enter Stephen A., who immediately assumes the role of the basketball grandmaster, wielding his opinions like a sword, ready to set the record straight.
Oh, now Angel Reese can rebound the basketball. She's a damn good player. She's got a bright future in the WNBA, but Caitlin Clark is next level. That's number.
But let's be honest, Stephen A. putting Angel Reese in her place felt less like a nuanced sports analysis and more like a one-man production of The Tempest, where the tempest is his volume and the plot is his ego. You could almost picture him pacing in a studio, flexing every vocal cord, preparing for a speech that could rival a presidential address if presidents were paid millions to yell at TVs.
Now, Angel Reese experienced vitriol thereafter. It was tough for her to deal with, as she articulated, and that's unfortunate because we got some no-good-ass people in this world. And their definition of happiness is bringing you down to the level of misery.
His delivery was a symphony of exaggerated pauses, raised eyebrows you could spot from space, and hand gestures that would make a mime question their career choice. Because this wasn't just a commentary, it was a performance art piece, where every syllable was weighted with the gravity of a Shakespearean monologue, except instead of iambic pentameter, it was all caps in real life, The drama was palpable, the stakes incomprehensibly high, and the subtlety somewhere on another planet, possibly vacationing with nuance. Stephen A. chose his words with the care of a toddler wielding a crayon near a priceless painting. He dissected Angel Reese's style, her attitude, and somehow managed to inject himself into the conversation like a third wheel who insists on driving. The message was clear. He was here to school Angel Reese on humility, basketball IQ, and perhaps the proper way to say thank you when being outshined by Caitlin Clark. But in the process, he also managed to remind everyone that Stephen A. has mastered the art of turning a simple basketball rivalry into an epic saga where the fate of the sport itself hangs in the balance. Because if you think about it, what's more important than which young phenom deserves more spotlight? Apparently, the real story is Stephen A.'s reaction to it all, which he delivered with all the subtlety of a fireworks display in a library.
That's why we have this big spike in women's basketball was because of them. That's the rivalry. It's not much, okay, their games are not rivalry. Their personalities are the rivalry.
Yeah, and I guess it's something. Yeah.
So you're right. So yeah, but that's what it is. It's not that I can have it. That's what it is.
And the internet loved it, or at least loved to mock it. Memes flooded in faster than a Caitlin Clark three-pointer in the final seconds. Some imagined Stephen A. donning a referee's striped shirt, handing out technical fouls for excessive sass and too much flair. Others pictured him coaching both teams simultaneously, giving a halftime speech so intense it caused a minor earthquake. The man turned a sports rivalry into the closest thing we have to gladiator games in the 21st century, complete with dramatic pauses and rhetorical questions that left everyone wondering if they were watching sports commentary or auditioning for a role in a new drama series. And the best part? Stephen A. somehow managed to take what was an already intense rivalry and crank it up to narrating a hurricane levels of passion. You could tell he wanted the world to know this wasn't just about basketball. This was about respect, legacy, and who could throw the most verbal haymakers without actually throwing anything. His words echoed in living rooms, barbershops, and probably a few Zoom calls where nobody could interrupt him. Now imagine Angel Reese hearing this. Somewhere she's probably rolling her eyes so hard it qualifies as a new sport. Maybe she's thinking, thanks for the unsolicited life coaching, Stephen, but I've got games to win and records to shatter. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark is off somewhere plotting her next jaw-dropping performance, oblivious to the noise. Because when you're rewriting history, you don't have time for theatrical interludes.
Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese kind of sounds a little bit like the conversation you just had about wanting the spotlight. This is what I said about it, and I love it. I want to see them going at it. I want to see them playing physical. I want to keep this racist crap off the court where it belongs. If some jamoke wants to talk like that, then go home. I don't want to hear it.
But Stephen A., ever the showman, can't help but be the loudest voice in the room. He turns every sentence into a crescendo, every point into a proclamation, and every rivalry into a soap opera. It's like he's casting himself as the narrator of this basketball drama, where Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark are the protagonists, and he's the voice reminding us all to pay attention. Because without Stephen A.'s booming declarations, how else would we know how seriously to take a college basketball rivalry? And maybe that's the secret sauce. Maybe the rivalry isn't just about who scores more or who has better handles. It's about who gets the biggest soundbite from Stephen A. Smith. Because when he steps in, the game becomes more than a game. It becomes an event, a spectacle, a headline-grabbing moment where every reaction is just as important as the action on the court. So while Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark continue to battle it out with skill, passion, and buckets, Stephen A. Smith will be there, booming from his studio throne, reminding us all that sports aren't just about points and wins. They're about drama, volume, and the absolute necessity of making everything about him. And honestly, we wouldn't have it any other way.
And so that's unfortunate, but in the end, the WNBA is moving upwards. Both of those young ladies are going to be incredible contributors to the product and the brand.
Oh, but the saga doesn't stop there, because in the universe of Stephen A. Smith, every sentence he utters is a seismic event, and every moment is an opportunity to remind us all exactly how important he is to the narrative. You think you're watching a basketball rivalry? Nope. You're witnessing a one-man production where the spotlight shifts from the court to the studio, and the star is none other than Mr. Vocal Dynamite himself. The sheer magnitude of Stephen A.'s intervention in the Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese saga is like watching a cat decide it owns a dog show. There they are, two young athletes redefining women's basketball with grace, grit, and jaw-dropping skills. And suddenly, here comes Stephen A., wielding his booming voice and fiery opinions like he's handing out championship rings at a kids' league game. He talks about Angel Reese like she's a character in an epic drama who's gotten a little too big for her boots, and he's here to deliver the proverbial slap on the wrist. You can almost hear him pacing back and forth in his studio, tapping a pen like a ticking time bomb, ready to unleash a monologue about humility, respect, and the true meaning of sportsmanship. But instead of quiet wisdom, we get theatrical proclamations that make you wonder if he's auditioning for the role of greatest sports analyst who ever lived, or just trying to keep his voice in prime shouting condition.
Caitlin Clark's or Angel Reese's popularity in large part is attributed to her behavior towards Caitlin Clark, because when Caitlin Clark was busy taunting opponents a couple of years back before LSU smacked Iowa around in the national championship game or so, it was Angel Reese that was clapping back.
And let's talk about his tone for a second, because Stephen A. doesn't do subtle. No, his voice is the audio equivalent of a fireworks display, a roller coaster climb, and a motivational speech all rolled into one. Every word is enunciated like it's the last word on earth, every pause pregnant with anticipation, and every sentence delivered with the kind of intensity that makes you question whether you're watching sports commentary or witnessing a verbal cage match. The whole thing comes across like he's less interested in the nuances of the rivalry and more invested in making sure he is the loudest, most dramatic voice in the room. Caitlin Clark is out there sinking impossible threes and rewriting record books. Angel Reese is bulldozing defenses like a wrecking ball. And Stephen A. is busy making sure the entire world hears his version of how this all should be viewed. The irony? While he's busy telling Angel Reese to check herself, or whatever it was he said with maximum gravitas, the basketball world is watching two phenomenal athletes elevate the game to new heights. They're showing heart, skill, and yes, a little bit of the competitive fire that makes sports worth watching. Meanwhile, Stephen A. is throwing in sound bites that sound like they were scripted by a late-night talk show writer who's had one too many espressos.
RG3 had to step in. Good for RG3. He actually said something right here. He said Angel Reese legitimately hates Caitlin Clark. There's no question. Jealousy, envy. Jealousy and envy. Pettiness. Oh, ego. It's jealousy and envy because of ego. Now, I've said this before and I'll say this again. She wanted to be the villain, and then she cried about being the villain. Angel Reese. She wanted to be the sex symbol, wearing all these whatever and showing her ass, and then cried about having to be that. I don't know whether the woman is mentally unstable, mentally stable. This is a show. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I don't care. But
Ladies and gentlemen, I love Caitlin Clark. She's been a guest on this show. I think she's spectacular. I'm the one that's been calling her the Steph Curry of women's basketball, and she has done nothing to push that back. I mean, this young lady is spectacular. She's been great for women's basketball overall, not just college basketball, but women's basketball. I think she has the potential, when all is said and done, to be arguably the greatest ever, because when you have that kind of range and that kind of handle, and you can pull up from the parking lot like Steph Curry for crying.
You can almost picture the scene. Angel Reese scrolling through her phone, seeing Stephen A. going full volume on her like she's some kind of wayward teenager caught sneaking out past curfew. Except no. Angel's been handling pressure and controversy since she was tall enough to reach the rim. She's not exactly in need of a shouting coach with a penchant for the dramatic. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark, she's probably shaking her head with a mix of amusement and disbelief, because in the middle of all this hype and shouting, she's just out there doing her thing, scoring points, dazzling fans, and making a mockery of anyone who thinks this rivalry is about more than pure basketball excellence. And then there's the internet, the true battleground for this modern sports feud. Social media exploded with reactions ranging from awe to outright mockery. Memes of Stephen A. with cartoon-sized lungs, videos of him doing his iconic eyebrow wiggle, and endless GIFs capturing his trademark "Are you kidding me?" face-flooded timelines everywhere, People aren't just watching the rivalry, they're tuning in for the Stephen A spectacle, complete with all the shouting, passion, and eyebrow theatrics you could ever want.
Ladies and gentlemen, I love Caitlin Clark. She's been a guest on this show. I think she's spectacular. I'm the one that's been calling her the Steph Curry of women's basketball, and she has done nothing to push that back. I mean, this young lady is spectacular. She's been great for women's basketball overall, not just college basketball, but women's basketball. I think she has the potential, when all is said and done, to be arguably the greatest ever, because when you have that kind of range and that kind of handle, and you can pull up from the parking lot like Steph Curry for Christ.
It's almost like Stephen A has become the unofficial hype man for the rivalry, except he's also the guy who tries to correct the story, insert himself into the narrative, and remind everyone that without him, none of this would be nearly as exciting. It's a masterclass in turning a sports feud into a one-man show, with all the grandeur and none of the subtlety. And you know what? Maybe that's the point. Because while Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese write their own stories on the court, Stephen A is busy crafting his own off it. A story where he is the all-seeing, all-hearing oracle of basketball truth, doling out wisdom and raising his voice at anyone who dares to challenge his version of reality. The whole situation is a delicious cocktail of drama, talent, and loud opinions. It's a reminder that sports aren't just about what happens in the paint or behind the arc. They're about narratives, personalities, and yes, sometimes about a man who refuses to let anyone else have the spotlight without a good verbal wrestling match.
Continue to love the WNBA and support the WNBA as we all do. And racial animus exists in this world. And to a lot of white people out there, I've said this on many, many occasions. If you're not one of them no good bastards that would do something like that, feel something like that, say something like that, nobody's talking about you. Don't personalize it and embrace it as if black folks and other folks are lumping you with them. No, we know how to isolate. We know how to look at a Susie Schuster and say she's a wonderful woman. She's straight up. She don't play. She don't tolerate no nonsense, but she's a dick.
So, as the rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese continues to electrify fans and rewrite women's basketball history, remember that the real ongoing saga is this: a man with a voice loud enough to shake buildings trying to put someone in their place while stealing the show in the process. Because in the world of sports, sometimes the biggest drama isn't on the court, it's in the commentary booth, where Stephen A. Smith reigns supreme, ready to shout his way into the history books one dramatic hot take at a time. And honestly, that's the kind of chaos we didn't know we needed but now can't live without.